What is up, weirdos? Jeremy Grunsteiner, your host of the Weird and Strong podcast here. Thank you so much for being here. This episode, we've got Rob Eschbach from F13 Performance joining us and having a blast. We got to meet in person after about a year and a half of knowing each other and being a part of a similar coaching community in the Lifted crowd. And it was so great to hear even more of his story, from getting started in training at 16 to bodybuilding to now being able to live his dream of owning a gym, opening a second gym with F13 Performance. Buckle up and let's get weird. All right, Rob Eschbach's with us today. Welcome, man.
Thank you, man, and good job on the last name, dude. I'm impressed.
I'm assuming it's German, or at least German adjacent. With a last name like Grunsteiner, you figure those German ones out real easy.
It's funny. There's actually there's an Eschbach town in Germany, as well as Eschbach pottery out of Germany. So yes, it's German.
Yeah, us Germans like to just reuse the same names over and over again for everything.
Well, lack of creativity is okay.
Yeah. Just got to take home with you wherever you can go. So
exactly. As
we start, everybody, I've got a weird question for you, Rob. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Awesome. Would you rather that any time, he's already thinking, folks, this is great. Would you rather anytime you put on clothes that it turned into a singlet, so like wrestling, weightlifting, powerlifting singlet, or every time you put on clothes, it turned into a tuxedo? So anytime you're walking around, you're either in a singlet or a tuxedo.
So I'm comfortable in both. I wrestled and I've spent some time on a weightlifting platform, so I'm comfortable there. And I do own a custom fit tuxedo that I got for my wedding. That still fits from 8 years ago. So, man. Anytime you put it on. So even when I work out, no matter where I go, I have to rock whatever I'm rocking, huh?
Correct. Yep.
Oh man, I'm pretty active. So being active in a tuxedo is kind of tough.
Can be.
You know what?
Even if it is tailor made.
Yeah. It's gotta be a little stretchy because I'm not the most the smallest guy. So that's a tough question. I like it. I'm gonna have to go tuxedo.
You're going to go with tuxedo?
I'm going to go tuxedo because this goes all the way back to an experience I had in college. So I had a professor who actually teaches now at the University of North Dakota.
Oh, really? At UND up in Grand Forks?
Yep. He started their sport management program. Great guy.
Oh, cool.
Dr. Ammon. He said, like, even for classes in college, we had to wear a shirt and tie. So as a college kid, wearing a shirt and tie is not normal.
Yeah.
It's something that everybody hated, but I actually enjoyed, because you've got to present yourself for where you want to go, not where you currently are. And that kind of stuck with me. So I think the person in the tuxedo, man, you're ready for that next level. You're ready to go anywhere you need to go. Like, an hour or two a day lifting in a tuxedo might be a little uncomfortable. Yeah. But I'll make it work.
Yeah. And like the just thinking through this of me as a client coming into work with you as a coach, and I've got this guy in a tuxedo waiting for me. I'm like, this is a very different experience. This is a very different expectations of what I'm going to even have for myself.
Well, I don't know which would be a different experience for you as a client coming in and seeing me in tuxedo or seeing me in a singlet. Yeah. So either way, it's gonna be out there.
Yeah. I was like, well, am I gonna have to wrestle this guy at the end of the session or what's going on here?
And it's funny, my wrestling singlet was very different than my weightlifting singlet. So
okay. Like different character, just a different look, different vibe.
The wrestling singlet we used to wrestle in was definitely more revealing than the weightlifting singlets that we're used to. Yeah. So, yeah. So you also go by what kind of singlet you rocking? You rocking the full wrestling singlet, the little skinnier straps to go up a little higher in the legs, or you rocking a weightlifting singlet? So, there's a lot of variables here.
There are quite a few, and like there's been some folks on social media that are like the fitness influencer space where I've seen a few of them just like going hard into the singlet thing, and like they're just pulling out the wackiest printed singlets and different.
Yep.
It's like, oh, it's not just a black suit or a blue lycra spandex suit that you just strap on. Everybody's looks the same. There's a lot of variability in there. Yeah. Yep. Very cool.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I put this in a chat that you and I were on Tuesday with Mark England and his crew. A cheesecake. Is a cheesecake a pie or a cake? Has a crust. It's in a It's in a pie pan, but it's called cake.
Correct. And I'm gonna lean on the old Alton Brown on this one. A cheesecake is actually a custard.
Ooh, see, we didn't have that as an option. Look at you.
And that's only just from years of like when I was in my mid to late 20s. I was really into culinary arts. I considered culinary school at one point. Those times where you're like, what do I do with my life? The very fluid nature of trying to figure things out. And so I was consuming like Food Network content on the daily. And so old episode of Good Eats, he talked about how do you create a cheesecake and what actually is a cheesecake. He's like, it's popular. It's technically more like a pie, but it is a custard.
There you go.
We classify it by the pastry rules.
Love it. So I'm gonna have to dive into more pastry rules now because that's the first time I've gotten that answer to the question. So
if you want to get really strange with things, if you've been following the discussions in the Enlifted community around this conversation, there is a theory out there called salad theory. Critical salad theory. So it postulates that all food items are either salads or soups, and even soups are a type of salad because of gross definitions of what a salad actually is. So one of the definitions of a salad is basically a mixture, an incongruous mixture or a hodgepodge. So a combination of elements is a salad.
Okay.
And so they have formulas on how do you determine how ingredient dense is it? How much of the same ingredient is it? So you have this salad ingredient entropy that you can calculate with a formula. Wow. Yeah, they got real nerdy into it. So it's a lot of fun. So is a hot dog a sandwich? It could be, and it's also a salad.
It's also a salad. That's great. That's great. Well, that was also an amazing conversation on Tuesday that I got to witness. It's a hot dog, a sandwich conversation.
Yes, exactly.
So that's cool.
Cool, man. Let's talk more about you. So what are the ways that Rob shows up as unconventional or weird in the world?
It's funny that you asked that question. I think I put this in the notes when you sent me an email. The cool part is that we're all weird. You know, I don't think anybody really shows up weird. We just show up as ourselves. So that's kind of how I look at it, because we're all different. We all kind of approach life the same way. We all experience life differently. It's one of those things where, you know, you and I were recently at an event, and my experience of the event, even though we saw the same exact thing, was very different than your experience of the event. And so was the person next to you and the person next to you and everybody else. So is it weird? Is it different? Or is it individualized? Is it individualistic? Like what's the answer? So I think how I show up weird is I just do everything as I see it, as I believe, and if it's my values. I don't conform very well. I never have. I have always found my own path. So I don't know if that's weird or if that's just who we all are, because we all kind of find our own path and our own viewpoint of things. And as we experience them, we kind of lead down whatever path it takes us.
Sure.
So
in talking
even
about
with
And talking about this nonconformity aspect of it, you said it's always been that way. Do you have an early memory of like when the first time you started to experience that or recognize that, oh, this is a little different than what other people do?
Yeah, I mean, we can just, because what I do for a living is fitness based. We bring it back to my first fitness experience when I started working out in the gym. When I was 16, I asked my parents for a gym membership. I didn't ask for a car. I didn't ask for anything else. I bought my own car. But I asked for a gym membership. So that was different. But then I was the guy who would go to practice, played sports, soccer, wrestling, track. Also fought for a while, did some karate and Muay Thai. But I would do my sports, and then I would go lift and train on my own afterwards, and go to school and do my sports, and then lift and train. So I always found myself, and I was the only one that did that. At that time. I'm in my 40s, so at that time, strength and conditioning wasn't as big in sports as it is now. Not that that's that long ago, but in 20 some years, there's been a big shift.
Yeah.
In the importance of strength and conditioning outside of your actual practice for your sport or athletic endeavor. So me going to the gym as a 16-year-old and lifting after sports was very different. And I was the only one in there that was not an adult, like working out after work. So through college, same thing progressed, and I got into the weird sport of bodybuilding. Standing on a stage in a Speedo is not normal.
The spray tan and the dehydration, all the things that come along with that.
I weighed and measured my food in college. In college, I would not drink or party for months on end. I would get up in the morning and go tanning. Shave your whole body like a swimmer. And that's definitely not the norm. So a lot of people would look at that as weird. My goal at the time as a bodybuilder was I wanted to walk by people. I wanted them to turn around and look at me like, look at that guy. It's disgusting. Veins popping out, muscles, whatever that is. I wanted to be weird. But I just wanted to be who I wanted to be. I wanted to be different. I don't know if it's weird. Some people will call it weird. Some people call it different. Some people call it awesome. Some people call it artwork. It's all, eyes of the beholder kind of thing. So that's probably the first experiences of weird were my teenage to young 20s.
Yeah. Well, and looking at, I've popped into a Globo gym here and there in my day, and definitely a trendsetter because the 4 p.m. rush at a commercial gym space is nothing but 16-year-olds and some maybe some retirees or but I was like, where are all these kids coming from? Aren't they in school? Oh no, school's out. Yeah. And so that's really cool that's shifted, and also that you were able to find that path for yourself.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited to see that as younger individuals are taking advantage of gyms and working out and taking care of their bodies. Because look at our my generation. I go back to a reunion or see people I went to high school with, and 80% of them aren't overly healthy.
Yeah,
and it's because they after high school they didn't do anything extra. They played their sport and then they went to college and did whatever. They didn't know how to train on their own or didn't understand the importance of working out or fitness. And I hope that this younger generation that's doing that continues as they get older. It's such an important thing for health, happiness, and longevity.
Well, how many of the people, because we're roughly around the same age, people in our generation, even though we have had much more exposure to physical fitness and physical wellness and much more content than our parents did, how many of those folks are even just accepting this idea or this narrative of, well, I'm past 30, everything's supposed to go downhill from here physically? It's is that actually true?
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that past 30, because I think my peak when I was my fittest overall, strongest, aerobic capacity wise, was probably about 37, 38. And I I played sports all growing up, played a little bit, some athletic stuff in college. And I was fitter in my late 30s, for sure, than I was in my 20s and in my teens.
Yeah.
Because I figured it out. I learned and educated myself and understood the correct approach to fitness. And I was fitter in my 30s. So even now in my 40s, I still work out with guys in their 20s, just because I understood how to do it. And I won't accept, get older and things deteriorate. Yeah. You can look at the biology behind it and talk about your testosterone levels and everything else, but I'm still getting stronger. I'll still hit a PR every now and then. And my aerobic capacity, you can always increase your aerobic capacity. That's not your age. That's your choice. So it's funny, you look at people accepting, well, I'm getting older, I'm supposed to get weaker and smaller and fatter. It's like that whole dad bod craze that came up back in the day. I think it was like Leonardo DiCaprio was a picture of him with some like 19-year-old girl with a belly on a boat or something like that. And like, dad bod. I'm like,
or the reality is it's like also like who walks around with their abs flexed all the time as well. Like somebody just caught him at the wrong angle. Maybe he had a little extra body fat at the time, but caught him at the wrong angle. And then we created a trend based off of it.
Yeah. It's like the whole dad bod thing. We have guys at the gym that their wife's pregnant. They start talking about their dad bod. I'm like, bro, you don't have a kid yet. You can't claim dad bod. And it's a choice. You were heavy before you had the kid. So let's not blame it on the kid.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like, have you now created, both of us being in the Enlifted community, that like, did you create the identity of this? And are you attached to this idea of a dad bod? Or just gave you the excuse. It's the easy way out. I think I honestly think it's the easy way out, because being healthy and being strong, like you're a weightlifter, being strong, being healthy, being active, it's not easy. No matter what you do, you have to give up something. You're making a sacrifice somewhere. You're not having that extra piece of cake, or maybe you're not staying out till midnight having I enjoy a good beer. I know you do too. But I have one or two. I'm not going to have 10 or 12. Yeah. So you make those, you call them sacrifices. I'm calling them just choices. Like, I'm going to choose that I want to be healthy. So I'm going to have a beer. I'm going to have two, and then call it. Have some water in between and enjoy it. I'm not going to have 25 Vic Ultras. Yeah, exactly. Or not have to do that every day or every Friday, or like taking a look at that choice also as what is my experience in this? Am I just sitting at home playing video games? Is a beer really going to enhance this experience for me? Or is this going to put me in a space where I don't feel as good? Or like, am I out with a group of people that I really, really enjoy being around? Would this enhance the situation, or am I good exactly how it is?
Yeah. And that's one of those things too. Like, I enjoy a good glass of wine. It's not that I'm trying to enhance the situation. I physically and emotionally enjoy it. Yeah. So I poured a glass of wine after, the end of the day last night, and had one glass of wine, and then I enjoyed the way it tasted. I wasn't worried about, am I going to catch a buzz, or is it going to make me feel a thing, or, I had a stressful day, I need to wind down with wine. No, that's not how it works. I enjoyed the taste of it. I wanted to try it out. It was good, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, it comes
back to my existence.
It comes into that, and like I've played around with this many times for myself and clients and things like that too, of like, do we need to brand it as 100% bad and completely negate it from our lives if we don't want to? It's like, well, giving yourselves the permission of like, changing that narrative too. If I can have wine when I choose to, like, that can drastically shift things for people, to go from I need wine to unwind to I choose when I want to have this.
Exactly.
Even if you choose to very rarely or never have wine again, you're still making that choice actively.
Yeah, exactly. You're changing your relationship with whatever substance you're enjoying.
So let's get back to you. Let's talk about so bodybuilding in college.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that path start to take you?
I've always enjoyed a strong physique. I've always been impressed by it. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, we had our action heroes. We had Arnold and Stallone and Van Damme, and these guys are just jacked dudes that you wanted to emulate. Mm-hmm. So I fell into the bodybuilding path after playing competitive sports. I needed that competitive outlet, and I liked lifting heavy. At the time, like CrossFit wasn't a thing. Olympic weightlifting wasn't as popular as it is now. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be strong. I wanted to look jacked. And so I kind of fell into it more than chased it.
Sure. Yeah.
I knew I enjoyed the gym. I loved how it made me feel. My friend that lived across the hall from me in college was the same way. A year older than I was, and he was into weightlifting. We got further and further into it, dove further and further into the lifestyle, and ended up doing some bodybuilding shows and training for bodybuilding. And it was awesome. That path has got me to where I'm at today. Mm-hmm. So with weightlifting through high school and then into college, and I've always been a student of what I do, not just someone that just did it. I did research and read books and watched movies and magazines and called people and just picked people's brains that were ahead of where I was and they were where I wanted to go. And I really educated myself on lifting and fitness and then aerobic capacity. And now, it's moved on to Olympic weightlifting and functional range conditioning and kettlebells and gymnastics and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So without my experiences in the weight room and bodybuilding, I wouldn't be where I am today. Mm-hmm. But knowing that when I was 16, I had said when I got my gym membership is my goal was to own my own gym. Mm-hmm. Took me a long time. Took me until my 30s to get there, but I did it. That had been my goal. I was one of those that was kind of headstrong, very stubborn. I knew where I wanted to go, and that always stayed in the back of my mind, even if that's not what I was doing it as a profession at the time. I knew the end goal. So through bodybuilding and through weightlifting and everything else, it got me to where I'm at today, which is, I've owned my gym now for 9 years.
Wow. That's super cool. And yeah. If I remember correctly, you're getting ready to open another location as well.
Yeah. We just got the engineer drawings approved. That the location doesn't have any plumbing, so we're running plumbing into it. So townships and permits and that kind of fun stuff has extended the process a little bit, but it should open here in the next couple of months.
That's fantastic. So when you were talking or thinking about this goal of owning a gym, did it ever extend to saying, "Oh, you're going to own 2 gyms at some point"?
No, because it's one of those things. It's like it's that passion project that everybody talks about. Like, I want to make my own T-shirts. I want to own my own gym, or I want to be a mechanic, or whatever that goal is that you want to do. That passion project. You like working on cars, so you become a mechanic, or you like training people, so you want to own a gym. You don't think about the business side of it. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where I am a very goal-oriented, driven person. And once you're training people, and I've taken thousands of hours of courses, and I've trained hundreds, if not more, clients. And I get to the point where, what's next? Mm-hmm. So I always I'm a what's next guy. Yeah. So where I saw the most growth for me now as an individual and as a professional is within the business realm. So opening a second location. We are now selling our programming that we do at our gym. We have our own approach to fitness. We have an affiliate in Arizona now who follows our programming and our methodologies. We're starting to box that up. We're creating how-to videos on our YouTube page for different movements. So I see the growth now, not as a trainer, but as a business owner or professional, is where my leading me. And it's exciting because you look at, I've always had a goal in fitness, bodybuilding, get on stage, do some shows. After that, I got into CrossFit, made it to a national level competition there. At the time, Granite Games was a big national level competition. Made it there. And then I'm like, all right, go and do weightlifting. So then I made it to Masters Nationals for weightlifting. So then it's like, all right, I checked these boxes along the way. I'm like, where's the next box for me? And I found the next box for me. Now I was on the business side of things. Mm-hmm. So even though I love coaching, absolutely love coaching, and I have some amazing clients that I will always do that. But I think the competitive side of me is going towards the business realm.
Sure. What's that shift been like in having to balance those identities of coach and business owner and being able to let one perhaps go a little to the side and putting the focus into this other identity? What's that shift been like for you?
It was really hard at one point. I actually remember the day. It was a Tuesday. I was training, and this is my shift from athlete to coach. Because I always tried to stay competitive while I was already coaching people, and I was doing it. I realized, I sat down. I'm like, this isn't fun for me anymore. It was really hard for me to sit there and say I was training. I was training hard. I was checking it off the list. It was a job. I used to love training, and I love it again now. I was sitting there. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm doing it because I think I have to. And if you hear the word I use there, I think I have to. Because, you and I who have experienced the magic of words know that I gave myself an out there. And I didn't have to. And I realized I didn't want to, and it wasn't me. So that shift was hard for me to just drop the competitive side of me as an athlete and to focus on my clients solely. I was always I discovered that I am a facilitator by nature. What I want to do is facilitate opportunities for others. You saw that I ran an event a couple weeks ago. I own a gym to help people. I discovered that about myself. And I didn't come to that realization, honestly, until the past year or two. Once I took a step back and realized who are you, what do you do, what do you enjoy questions. I'm by nature a facilitator. I want to facilitate opportunities for others to excel. So shifting from my competitive mind to coaching mind and coaching focus was relatively easy because I think I was already there. I just hadn't told myself that yet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I hadn't had that realization internally that what you really enjoy is watching others succeed. Like my success was empty. Like I was good at things. Stood on a couple podiums here and there, had some fun, won a few things. But it was never as exciting as when I saw I had an athlete make the CrossFit Games, or I had an athlete. I have a teen now who's 18th in the world. And she's a stud. I enjoy that a lot more than me standing on some podium for some weightlifting meet or going to nationals or whatever. That to me wasn't is what it was. It wasn't exciting to me. It was there. It was cool. And then the next day is exactly like the day before. There's nothing different. But facilitating the opportunities for someone else to succeed and excel, that for me is more gratifying than anything that I can accomplish by myself.
Yeah.
So that shift from individual competitor to coach was very, very easy once I realized who I was. And then from shifting from athlete to business owner and focusing on the business success, that just fulfilled for me any kind of competitiveness I still had left that I needed to scratch that itch a little bit. So my competitive mindset moved into business. And that's how I approach what I do is as a competitor, I want to be the best. I want to compete. I'm going to do the reps. I'm going to do the work, and I'm going to be the best. So that's where my business mind goes. So I can be the facilitator for others, and my competitive mindset goes to the business side. So it was actually once I sat down that day and realized more about myself, it was a very, very easy shift. Mm-hmm. But that battle to discover who I really was the hard part.
Yeah. Well, like from a time, was that something that took like weeks, months, days, or was it you were just blindly fumbling along, doing all the things, and you just tripped over that realization one day?
It's funny. It was more of a slap in the face. It was more of the tripping thing. Like I was uncertain. I felt uncomfortable in balancing, competitor, coach, business owner.
Yeah.
I knew something was off. I knew something was off. I could tell. I was decent at all three. I wasn't great at any one. It's hard to recognize, when you're not giving it your all, because you think you are. You're giving your all to three different things.
It's only so much we have to give.
Yeah, and you're not delivering on any of them. So it was one of those things that drive to work when I realized the facilitator thing. I was driving to work, and I'm like having one of those quiet drives, no music, no podcast, just kind of experiencing my 20-minute commute. And it was really like a popped in my head, slap in the face, kind of like, oh, I get it now. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is who I am. This makes the most sense. And I remember the clarity that I had when I showed up to work that day. Like, all right, now I have a clear path in front of me. I know where I'm going. I'm not just reacting. Mm-hmm. I have a direction. I have a path. And ever since then, it's been full steam ahead. And the growth I've seen in myself as a professional, as a coach, and even as a person has been astronomical compared to prior to that.
Yeah. So I've been diving back into the work of Byron Katie lately. And one of the things she talks about is many times we tend to argue with what reality is. And your description of that, of like, you just finally realized what reality was. Like,
yep.
It's been there this whole time. And now I finally see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clear. I don't think we allow ourselves the space to see it, because we fill ourselves and our buckets with so much throughout the day that you don't have that 20-minute drive with no noise. You don't have that 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even 5 minutes of clarity in your day where you can just shut it off.
Quiet alone time.
Let it come at you. I've always said, and this is a theory that I've come up with in the past 5 or so years, like 5 minutes. I always tell my clients when I meet with them, I'm like, 5 minutes. I need you to find 5 minutes a day where there's nothing. Mm-hmm. I don't care where it's at. You can sit in your closet by yourself, go outside, go for a walk. I want no music, no noise, no phones, no earbuds, no Apple Watches, no nothing. Just 5 minutes of silence. 5 minutes of silence will change your life.
Very much so. Yes.
And so people think it's like this big, I need to have this 90 minutes of meditative reflection. I'm like, dude, no one has 90 minutes to meditate. If you do, good for you. That's awesome. Like, you figure something out. I haven't figured out because I, two kids, like, and job. Like, I have not found 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I can find 5.
Well, it's the same thing.
I can find 20 on the way to work.
It's the same, we look at this, and this is like maybe the conversation around culture, or like our the ways that we believe things, of like where we tend to want to drive towards like optimal or perfection first, especially when we're starting something. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, do you need to become a Tibetan monk on day 1 to start a meditation practice? No, just like Rob said, 5 minutes is all you need to start. It's the same thing with nutrition. If you're not eating any vegetables today, could you eat 1 vegetable today? Like, better is still better. And like, I get caught in this all the time still of, if I can't implement this in the most perfect way, most optimal way possible, why should I even do it? It's like, well, it's a very binary choice that I've given myself. And what does that?
Yeah,
what does that actually do?
Crazy. I had to take it's funny you say this, because I had to take my own advice, the 5-minute approach. to fitness recently. There was 3 weeks where I did not work out.
Yeah.
Getting ready for the Enlifted Experience event, like with the gym and my main business. And then the final touches of that, those last 3 weeks, did not work out once over 3 weeks. And that's the longest I've gone of not working out since I've been 16.
Wow.
So that is the longest I've gone in that many years. And it was because I thought I needed an hour to 90 minutes to work out. That's what I was used to. And I had to take a step back and be like, dude, set a clock. And I did. I set a 30-minute clock and just started. And when that 30-minute clock was over, I was done. So it's funny. And that is now 5 weeks ago that I started this practice. And I've only worked out for 30 minutes a day for the last 5 weeks. But I have found a way to consolidate my fitness into 30 minutes to where it's focused, it's effective, and I can move on. So I'm maintaining my fitness level. My strength is fine. My endurance is fine because of the way I combine what I'm doing. Where 90 minutes works. 30 minutes works. You don't need 90 minutes.
Yeah. Well, how much of the 90 minutes is spent? I'm just going to take that extra minute to rest between these sets, or I'm gonna put these things away over here, and I'm gonna meander over to here. It's like if you have a deadline for when you need this to be done, it changes drastically. I really appreciate that a lot because same thing of like, yeah, I can remember the days of 2.5 hour long sessions where you're grinding things out because you've got this long list of things that you're trying to train, or these long things because you're in a competitive season or because of whatever is going on, because you've allowed yourself that 2.5 hours when we're not in a competitive state. It's like, is that necessary?
Yeah.
Even for people who aren't at a place where they've built a lot of fitness, even just getting started.
Yeah. Even more so for the person just getting started, because, as a gym owner, you have these people come in, I just don't have the time for this. Like, that's the number one excuse that people have, and it's the most bullshit that you'll ever hear in your life. You don't want to make the time. You have 30 minutes. Look at your phone data every day and see how many hours, not minutes, hours you spent on your phone.
Yeah.
Like how often have you spent 30 minutes in front of the TV today? You have? Cool. That 30 minutes could have been working out. That's all you need. You don't need more than that. Now, I have a gym that has hour classes, but I also have individual clients I coach, and if they need 30-minute workouts, they get 30-minute workouts. If they have 1 day a week they can go an hour, they go an hour. They tell me what their time constraints are, and then we fit our program around their time constraints. So my time constraint right now, based on my personal goals and my business goals, is I allow myself 30 minutes. Start to finish, that's it. And before I even get moving, I start a clock. When that clock beeps, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm just not the fittest guy in the world, but I can hang with 30 minutes of work.
Well, you're also, I'm assuming that you're not trying to climb the ladder of fittest man in the world.
No, not at all.
You just want to be able to hang, and that's cool.
I want to be able to hang. We had one of my coaches said, "Hey, jump in this workout with me." It worked out well because it was a 30-minute workout. I said, sure. And I hung just fine. Yeah,
exactly. And so, like, coming back to something we talked about a little bit earlier of this idea of no time. I don't have the time for that. I don't have. So it's the same thing as I've got a dad bod, or the dad bod's really getting to me. It's the same because you've created this idea that I don't have time, or I'm too I will raise my hand very high and be that person that says, I'm just too busy. I'm busy. As like the more and more the older I get now, as I realize that that's also a bullshit term too, is that I've now created this idea that I'm busy. So I'm going to find a way to stay busy. I'm going to find a way to fill my calendar. I'm going to find a way to fill every moment of the day with something. It prevents me from doing the things that get me to where I want to go.
Yeah. And it's funny. We have, and it gets worse as you get older. I always thought that was a younger thing, but it's not. So we have a 50+ class that we run at my facility. And it's mostly ladies who come in and work out, and you hear them like, "Oh, I can't come tomorrow." I'm like, why? Well, I have a haircut at 2. I'm like, my class is at 11. I'll get my hair done at 2, and I don't like. I'm like, hold on a second here. So your entire day now, you get up at 8 and you go to bed at 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
You do nothing that day except for your appointment at 2 because you're busy because you have an appointment at 2. So, and you think it's one person, that's a lot of people. Yeah. Once they retire, their day is not filled with work and kids and whatever else they had as in their younger years.
Mm-hmm.
They allow themselves to use that one thing to encapsulate their entire day.
Mm-hmm.
It's super. And I thought it was, younger generation where like, my age where you have, a business or a job and 2 kids and 2 dogs and a house and this and that. And you say you're busy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see as they get older, you have one thing in your entire day and you told me how busy you are.
Yeah.
Let's look at our hours a little different here. You have 12 to 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day to fill. Like you can experience life for 16 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do with those 16 hours?
Yeah. Look at each day as a new opportunity rather than another
every hour, every minute, every hour is an opportunity. And that's what it is. I have a client who I work with. He's in the Navy, has an amazing job with the Navy, and he saw that Top Gun movie and don't think, just do comment or whatever they say is in that movie. And he's like, I use this. I say this all the time. I'm like, stop saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say, don't think, just do. I want you to think, and I want you to experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you need to go through your day.
Yeah.
Use your mind and then experience life.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think, just do. Don't shut your mind off and just meander through your day in your reactionary, attack. Mm-hmm. I want you to think and use your mind, and I want you to experience every minute throughout the day. That's how I think you're going to get the most out of what you're doing. So yes, think and experience. Don't shut your mind off and just do.
Because that sounds like an automaton or a computer or a robot, or
mm-hmm.
It's like that's a very non-human experience.
Yep. Yes.
There's a previous episode. We had a coaches roundtable between myself and a couple of other coaches where we talked about some of these ideas of similar ideas to that of like this just work harder. Like nobody cares, work harder. It's like, well, I care.
Yeah.
Or like this hustle porn culture, like in looking at, because you're in a performance aspect. Is that something that bleeds through into your practice as a coach, or is that something that you take a look at with your clients of like, is this really the way things are? Is this what's going to get you the best out of whatever area of performance you're looking to achieve in?
And that's the question: is what you're doing gonna get you the best results or get you to your goal?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you do. I worked out 4 hours a day. Awesome. 3.5 hours of that were absolutely freaking pointless. They got you no closer to where you wanted to go. So why are you doing them? Why only work out for 1 hour a day that is 100% focused on getting you what you need? And that's the hustle culture. And I am 100% guilty of that. I would say most of my success up to a point was because I just outworked people.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I was brought up. I was raised in a house where my mom worked from home or worked when she could, odd jobs in between here and there. She owned a business. She didn't own a business. She had a hair salon. She had a sewing factory. And my dad worked 3 jobs. Like, my family hustled to make ends meet. That's what I experienced. Like, on Saturday mornings, my dad woke us up at 6 a.m. to cut down trees and split firewood, or pour slabs to build a garage, or put shingles on a roof, or siding on a house. Like, that's how I was raised. Mm-hmm. So I would say up until the last 2 to 3 years of my life, that's what I did. It didn't matter if I worked until 11, 12 at night. I still got up the next day at 4 or 5 a.m. and started working again. Mm-hmm. And it was that hustle culture, that mindset. And I was definitely one of those people like, oh, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. Look how hard I'm working.
The badge of honor.
You're a freaking idiot, man. Why don't you get 8 hours of sleep and work smarter, not harder?
Yeah.
Use your time better. Stop running around chasing yourself, and have a plan.
Well, to your point also of like the athlete that's doing 4 hours versus 1 hour, how much of that time was spent chasing your own tail, self-congratulatory of look how hard I'm working. Like, was it actually effective work, or was it just a lot of time on the floor?
Yep. And that's part of the event world that I lived in there for 10 years with NBC. Like, we had these overnight changeovers, and we'd have, times where you slept in your trailer for an hour, then went back to work. And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe if we planned this a little better, we wouldn't have to do that. Instead of reacting to certain things or not staying ahead of the game far enough to where you could have made some adjustments to where you didn't have to do that last minute.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's external factors that will affect that with the live TV windows and whatnot. But we could have done better. Me seeing it now, like we were idiots. We did stuff ass backwards. Like, it was horrible because we didn't take the step back ahead of time and plan correctly. We just reacted on site and on the fly, and then worked 24-hour shifts, slept for 2 hours, came back to work and everything else. And I realize that now, and it's made me such a better person where, I come home every day at 3:30 to get my daughter off the bus. I stay home and get my daughter on the bus every morning because my hours are so focused when I'm at work. And then at night when I'm at home, that hustle culture and that mindset of running, going all the time. It's not really a badge of honor. It's almost like a badge of failure. So
yeah,
that's where I go.
Yeah, it's interesting to even like think about this and look at what people are talking about, even like productivity spaces outside of the fitness world as well. Like people who have the typical 9 to 5 of like how much of that 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, 8 hours a day, how much of that is actually focused work, or how much is that actually productive work? I think these are very interesting conversations that I'm glad that people are open to and that we're having, especially also as a recovering workaholic, in that same vein, and that same, until very recently, of that same mindset. No matter how much I wanted to change it, it's a gear that's really easy to get into where you're like, all right, it's grind time. And being able to take that step back for ourselves, or even as a project or a company, it's many times scary, or it feels like it's not as productive or not as useful to take that step back and look at the 50,000 foot view versus the little details. There's something interesting in our brains that tell us, well, it's easier, quote, easier to just grind it out and just go through. And it's just 2 weeks of grinding through this.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks turns into a month, and then into a year, or however long it turns into.
And I even said that recently with going up to the lifted event. I'm like, all right, I told my wife, I'm like, listen, next 2-3 weeks, it's going to be rough. I'm going to grind through it. I just need to get through these 2 or 3 weeks. And after you get done with everything, and the event went awesome from my end, and I look at it, and I'm like, oh, should have taken some more time a couple months out and foreseen some of the problems that arose the last 2 or 3 weeks. And if I think it would have taken some more time then, I wouldn't have had the grind at the end. So it's one of those things where, I'm still guilty of it. I still catch myself. Now, that being said, there always is the caveat, especially as a business owner. There are going to be times where to make the next step, you're going to need a couple extra hours some days.
Yeah.
But those days are few and far between, and instead of every day, all day, if you plan accordingly and you look at the bigger picture correctly. Yeah.
That's really cool. So tell me more about this. How are you guys approaching performance from your role and from your program at your gym? at F13?
Yeah. So F13 Performance, we have created something called the 4 S's. Something I coined a few years ago. It's strength, stability, skill, and sweat. Those are our 4 main focuses. I believe, and our methodology is, you need to be strong enough to be self-sufficient on a daily basis. So strength is our first S. And then stability is something that gets missed in, I would say, almost every gym setting, unless you are training like an Olympic weightlifter. You guys work on some stability stuff where you got to be stable with the bar overhead. Other than that, there's not really many gyms that have the knowledge or the time to focus on stability. And that's really important for long-term health, longevity, and injury prevention. So we dedicate part of our day, every day, to stability, shoulders, hips, core.
Doing probably a lot of unilateral work over bilateral work, single joint, multi-joint, combining these in different ways. Yeah.
Yep. It's really cool. And so we've put a lot of focus on there. So strength, stability, and then we do skill development. We dedicate time to learn new skills. We don't ask you to learn new skills in a stress setting. Yeah. So instead of, that's, while I have competitors in CrossFit, we're not a CrossFit gym. We have individual athletes, some can play CrossFit, some in soccer, some in football. We program accordingly for each one. You see that missed a lot in a CrossFit setting where you come in like, all right, guys, we're going to snatch today. And you got Billy over here. It's the second day of class, grabbing a bar, grabbing a PVC. Oh, okay, you look great at the PVC pipe. Let's grab a barbell. Like, dude, bump the brakes. Let's spend time on just this movement to focus on it and not say, cool, we're going to do 30 of these for time as fast as you can. Sure, go ahead, throw weight on that bar. No. Yeah. Please don't. Like, so people want to adapt and learn even something as simple as doing a squat correctly. I mean, how many times if you see someone in a gym setting, like 90% of people you see out there can't squat correctly. So let's spend time in the skill development to learn how to do squat. Let's learn how to do a correct pull up and learn how to pull with your lats and not your arms. Let's learn how to do a correct press and lock out and hold overhead. Like, so spend the time in the skill portion to learn how to move correctly. And then the sweat portion, that's what everybody sees. And, you're going to assault bikes and kettlebells and medicine balls and barbells and dumbbells and whatever else. The sweat portion is the sweat portion. Again, in our sweat, we don't do heavy dynamic movements because under a stress state and a fatigue state, we don't want to do those because of injury prevention. Yeah. High skill under high stress is likely a recipe for issues. Whether you might make it through today, but at some point that's going to catch up with you. Yeah. Or there's going to be a day where you may not have the skill, or you are pushing beyond what your capacities are. It's a very, very cool model. It's very similar to what I was doing when I was helping run a gym, and like a very similar approach in how I was approaching writing programming as well. So we've never actually talked about how we've done this before. Yeah. So it's really, really fun to have that connection and say, oh yeah, we have a lot in common beyond the things that we already knew were in common, and in the way that we approach fitness and programming. Yeah, so that was different for your individual athletes. We, as coaches and professional, I'll say as professional coaches, you understand that, and a lot of people good coaches are able to adapt that for individuals. And we found a really cool way to adapt that to a class setting. So it's kind of cool we have the people that are experienced athletes, and you have the people who are fresh off the couch, but all doing those 4 S's together. And obviously, the people that are higher skilled or more experienced can go a little heavier or a little harder, and people that are newer, you watch, and we bring it back and adapt movements to them. We don't say scale because scaling is bullshit. We say adapt. Scaling implies a hierarchy. Yeah. We adapt the movement to the person's abilities. Yeah, that's very cool. No, it's really cool, and it's worked out really well. It's unique to what we see in our area and what I've seen out in my travels. You have your individual coaches like yourself that definitely implement those things that work really well. But I think there's, unfortunately, they're few and far between, because I feel like the fitness industry has become inundated with influencers or people that have had success in their own fitness. I think now they can coach other people because they understand themselves and how they move. They don't. It's tough to understand how other people move in actual systems and coach properly.
Yeah, that's been an interesting thing that I've noticed amongst others. Like, and this I see it much more in like, in particular in like strength sports than anything else. Of like, well, this coach never made it to nationals or never hit a world record, so they're not a very good coach. It's like, well, is that actually true? Whereas I've seen many very, very good athletes who have gone into the coaching route who struggle a lot because it's a very different skill set. It's a very different way of thinking of how do I make this work for myself, or how do I, as you said, adapt this to the person in front of me? How do I meet this person where they are and who they are to get them to where they want to go?
Yep. There's a lot of natural athletes out there that work extremely, extremely hard to become a high level athlete at what they're doing. But it's hard for them to adapt to someone that doesn't have their natural ability sometimes, because they haven't experienced that, or they haven't been taught to see it that way. Some people excel as athletes, and they're great leaders and they're phenomenal athletes. And some people excel at theory and coaching and teaching and leading. There's room for both. Exactly. And recognizing who you are is the important part.
Yeah. Just like you recognized who you were in that moment of the slap to the face.
Yep. Had a lot of those.
Same here, man. Same here. This has been a fantastic conversation. It was an amazing experience getting to see you work your magic down at Richmond and get to see you in person for the first time since we've only seen each other just like today through distance, through Zoom and whatnot. So as we start to wrap our experience up today, what would you like to share with the audience? What would you like to promote?
Well, what I think we should share with the audience is just be authentic, which I know you have done a phenomenal job of. Since interacting with you via Zoom through our classes and hearing about your travels, and you booking a flight to, you went to Germany, didn't you?
Correct.
You booked a flight during class with zero warning. You all right, I'm going to Germany. We all saw it happen. It was really cool. Being authentic is the important part, and being okay with, if you're a little weird, as you would say, or different, own it. Be your authentic self. Understand what you want and your thoughts and values and your direction, and ride it out, man. Go for it. So that's what I think people need to do. And if I'm going to, self-promote it all, feel free to follow F13 Performance on the gym, on the gram. We're out there, F13_performance. We have something called Friday Funnies. I'm not sure if you follow our gym at all. Every Friday, our coaches do something funny, and it's very entertaining. So if you're not into fitness, it's still fun to watch, because we're goofy and weird, and we love it. Yeah.
And that's plays directly into what you just said about authenticity. It's like allowing people to show up as themselves, just like this show is to allow people to show up and share their stories and share who they are. So give Rob's gym F13 for Performance, F13_performance, a follow on the Instagrams. We'll have the information in the show notes below. And so I just wanted to express my gratitude for you being here, for having this awesome conversation, and also just for you being you, because it's been a great thing to have you, in and out of our interactions and in my life and the experiences that we've had together. So thank you, Rob, for being you.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me. It's this is a long time coming, so I'm glad we could finally connect. And then whenever I have a podcast starting soon, whenever that starts up, I will make sure I give you a call to schedule something.
Hell yeah, I will be there. So until next time, folks, we'll wrap it up. As always, stay strong, folks, and most importantly, stay weird.